Hi, it's Paul from Model Builder International. What we're going to look at today is a 1/72 P37B loss from Mirage-Hobby. Okay, so let's have a look to see what we get inside. It's a pretty neat cover to the box, and there's nothing else on the outside really. As you can see, it's a model set. There's a paintbrush, glue and some paints inside. So open it up and see what we get. So there's the paints. I probably wouldn't use those. Does it say anything? Doesn't say much about them other than their colour, but I probably won't use those. Glue and a double-ended paintbrush, which is pretty neat. I'd hold on to that and use it for something. So the kit itself is all inside one bag. Some instructions on a decal sheet and some more instructions. So I'll just put these out the way. So this is obviously a painting guide. Basically khaki above and light blue below, and basically just safety advice on the back there. So that's the main painting guide. Instructions on decal sheet N205, and yeah, nice instructions. I'll go through those in a second, and also a decal guide there. Separate decal sheet, which is kind of neat. So let's look at the kit itself. So I'll just open up this bag. So you can see there's 4 frets, roughly about the same size, plus a clear parts thread. The parts look pretty good. There's actually pins and holes to get things lined up. And the attachment points seem pretty good. Can't see any flash right now. Might do when I do the close-up photographs. Don't forget, I'll take some close-up photographs of the sprues and parts of the sprue, stick them all on the website so you can have a look. And we'll go through the instructions. And yeah, so far looks like a pretty interesting kit. I'll put some info about the aircraft up on the website as well, but basically pre-war this was one of the most advanced bombers in the world. If things had gone differently, this had, was it 5 export orders already, so it's a pretty neat aircraft, and surprising it hasn't really been done mainstream before. So let's have a look at go through the instructions, have a close-up look at the parts. I'll stick up some images of the sprues while I talk about the plastic for a minute. It took me a while, but I've managed to sort of work out what's going on with this kit, and I've put this in the conclusion as well. The look of the plastic just didn't make me feel like it was a new kit, a brand new kit, a modern kit. But trying to find evidence of that was proving tricky. But today I managed to find a set of instructions from an old kit from the 80s of this same aircraft, but the parts layout, the parts breakdown and the diagrams for the instructions are almost identical. So I am sort of 99% sure this is actually a reboxing of a kit from the 80s. So that explains why what you'll see as we go through is you'll see there's raised panel lines on the wings. There is some recessed panel lines as well. There's a bit of flash here and there. It's not going to be, you're going to have to do some work to get this kit up to modern details. If you want recessed panel lines, you're going to have to scribe them yourself. So that being said, at least you know what you're getting. So let's have a closer look. Let's start with step 1, which is the cockpit. So there's some simple detail there, as you can see. Go to step 2. Basically, we're putting the main floor of the aircraft in. There's some detail on that as well, as you can see. Then on to step 3, which is the bomb aimer's position, or the nose gunner's position, and there's some simple detail there. There's not a lot of fine detail in there, but there's some basic details for you to build on if you wish to. And then on to step 4, where we trap the parts we've built already. We put those inside the cockpit halves. There's some nice details on the inside walls. There's a nice radio goes in, and the instrument panel. They all have details on them. I don't think anybody makes any photo etch or anything for this yet, so if you want to add more details yourself, there's some scope to do that, along with some careful painting. Once the two halves are together, the detail on the outside of the fuselage half is mostly raised detail, but it's nice and subtle and quite fine. Once the two halves are together, you slide in the nose gunner's position from the front. So I need to do some test fitting to make sure it's going to fit before you start gluing things together. Step 6 is putting on the tail, the two rudders. See, there's a lot more raised and recessed detail on the tail. It's a two-part tail, top and bottom. And you also put on the glazed nose and the cockpit canopy. Those will allow a fair amount of detail to be seen inside the aircraft. So like I said before, it might be handy to just add bits of wire down the side of the inside fuselage because it'll be visible. Overall, looks quite good. Then on to step 8, which is pretty simple. It's attaching the wings. Two-part wings, top and bottom, and you trap an undercarriage bay inside each one. Again, the wings look quite nicely detailed, so they should go together nicely. Step 9 is all about the undercarriage. Basically build the undercarriage legs and put the wheels on and put the undercarriage doors on. On the kit it looks like the undercarriage legs are sort of long and gangly, but looking at photographs of the real thing, that's just what they look like. So again, you could add a little bit extra detail you want, but I'd check some photographs online because there's not an awful lot of detail that's going to be visible. Next we have steps 10 and 11, which is all about the engines. Basically put on the propeller onto the engine cowling. There's a simple representation of the engine visible. Maybe you might want to detail it a little bit more. And step 11 is putting the cowlings on the back and the exhausts, and looks like an air inlet. But overall, they'll probably do the job. Spinner on the front. There's not going to be a great deal to see. The only thing that I'm looking at really is the engine cylinders. Maybe just scoring some lines on those. And step 12, the final step, is real simple. Basically put the two engines onto the front of the wings and add what looks like an aerial mast. And there you have it. Okay, so now we look at the decals, and the decals themselves look good. We've got some extra numbers at the extreme right and the bottom left-hand corner. The one thing I'm a bit lost with is that big N and the 205 in the middle. It looks like they should be used, but if you look at the two decal sheet instructions, there's no sign of it. However, if you look at the painting guide, you can see that it looks like underneath the port wing is a big letter N, but it's not actually mentioned anywhere. So I'm not too sure what to do with that N205. I'm guessing it goes the N under the port wing, the 205 under the starboard wing. But I've emailed Mirage-Hobby just to see if there's something missing somewhere. If there is, I'll put an update on the website and stick a note underneath this video as well. But other than that little glitch, all the decals look really good. So a conclusion. Well, one thing I've managed to do finally at last is work out what's going on with this kit. the raised panel lines and some of the look of the sprues made me think this was an older kit, but just trying to find evidence of that was tricky. And it wasn't until just a few minutes ago I managed to work it out that this is indeed a reboxing of quite a much older kit, going back before 2000, so over 20 years old. That's why the details look a bit sparse, and even though there's no real evidence of it not being a brand new kit. So that being said, until I think there's a couple more kits coming out later this year from Fly and IBG, so we'll see what those are, see what they look like. But at the moment, this is the only game in town for 1/72 P37B. So many thanks to Mirage-Hobby for sending it along for us to have a look at.